Hey guys. So apparently, despite having a good show last night for Dynamite, everybody was actually praising it. The viewership numbers went down. Now, I know a lot of people will say that, well, you have the NBA playoffs on TNT and ESPN, and you have Major League Baseball and local markets being shown at the same time, so it's going to hurt it. And that might be true, but it's been the same like this for the past several weeks, if not the past several months. And yeah, in March, they had some great shows. Don't get me wrong. They had some terrific shows, shows that people would, want to go see again and again, but still the viewership number was not there. But why? Why is the viewership number, not there? Is it because of what I said in my previous video? That fans are basically going down the route they did when WWE was under Vince McMahon, and they'd rather watch and, live streams, if not edited recordings of created wrestling leagues, courtesy of, games like WWE 2K, instead of watching, the crap they were watching on Raw and SmackDown and even NXT at that time. Is AEW is that what's happening with AEW right now? Well, apparently it may be that, or that may be part of the case. That some people would rather watch, somebody live stream the CAW league, or even watch a premiere of a edited, recorded together, CAW league instead of watching what AEW has to offer, despite how good AEW might be, for that day or for that night. And look, AEW does have all the potential in the world to be a very good promotion. They have all the potential, all the resources needed, as a lot of people have said, to be a viable and substantial number two, if not slowly work their way up to being, at even Steven, if you will, with WWE as a viable number one. But right now, it seems like, they've lost kind of the plot a little bit, when it comes to trying to, be that promotion. I mean, again, they will have, once in a while hit, they will have hit here, and a hit here, and that's great. But after having those hits, all of a sudden they drop. It's like when somebody has a number one song on the Billboard charts, for 1 week, or for two, 3 consecutive weeks. And all of a sudden it goes from number one straight to number 15. That's not a good look. That's not a good sign, for that song, because it shows that it goes from number one all the way to number 15 after, being at number one for 2 or 3 consecutive weeks. It shows people are sick and tired of hearing that song over and over and over again. It's kind of like with Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. The first week or two were huge for that movie, but all of a sudden, it just dropped off. And nobody wanted to see it anymore because even though it was good the first 2 weeks, it's like it just became a bore. It became repetitive. It became unnecessary, to watch. And they wanted something different. They wanted something more, if you will. And, that sudden drop-off at the box office really hindered it and caused the downfall of the DCEU at that time. So when I look at AEW is kind of in this situation to where once in a while they'll have a hit, but even if they have a hit, the viewership numbers, will not reflect it. It will not reflect, what they are doing. It will not, show, a very positive, outcome in the eyes of a lot of folks. Because despite the fact that people may say, oh, you got to go watch this week's episode of Dynamite, it's really, really good, very story-driven and all that, they might be, okay, fine, I'll go and check that out. But before they do, they'll hear about the viewership numbers, and they'll be like, well, do I really want to check it out? It might be good, but the viewership numbers say otherwise. So, AEW's in this kind of a situation to where it's like, yeah, they could have a hit, but, the numbers are not going to show. I mean, going back to the Batman v Superman, comparison, there were some that still felt it was good despite it having a massive drop-off. There were some, like I said, mentioned earlier, that will like a certain song that stayed at number 1 for 2 or 3 consecutive weeks, but then drop off to number 15. There will be people that will still like that song. They'll still enjoy that song. They'll still want to hear it over and over again, despite others being tired of it. It's just one of those situations to where, AEW is in that kind of scenario, to where they might have a good show, but the viewership numbers are not showing it. Now, like I said, people will come out and say, and it is reasonable to believe, that with the NBA playoffs and the NHL playoffs and the MLB season going on and the WNBA season just beginning, especially with that, star performer they have, and what's her name, Caitlin Clark, it's going to be hard for not just AEW, but for WWE and any other wrestling promotion to get viewership numbers, because people's attention is going to be, the attention is going to be averted elsewhere. I'm trying to find the right words to say there. It's going to be averted elsewhere. So it's going to be hard. There's no doubt. It's going to be very hard. And then when you get in the summer, it's going to be even harder, because despite the fact that people might be off, and yeah, that might, attendance-wise, be a positive for a lot of wrestling or combat sports, the viewership numbers are going to be another thing. Because are people going to really want to stay inside on a Wednesday and Saturday night during the summer and watch Dynamite and Collision? No, they're not. No, they're not. So for AEW, they got to come up. Tony Khan's got to come up with a strategy to kind of fix this situation. And, people might say, well, if he gets rid of Ring of Honor, then fine, that helps him out. Yeah, you can get rid of Ring of Honor and integrate and unify all the championships into, AEW and integrate the roster into AEW. That's fine. But that's still not going to be the answer. The answer is basically trying to find a different time slot on Wednesday night or moving off of Wednesday nights. That's what I look at. I mean, if I'm Tony Khan, this is what I would do. I would look at the upcoming schedule going into the fall of 2024 and into the new year of 2025, and I would look at that and be like, okay, what night is going, and after doing some research with my team, I would look at that and be like, okay, what night in the fall of this year and the beginning of next year is going to get us the most viewers? It's going to give us the most success in the long run. That's what I would do if I'm Tony Khan and his team. I would look at, nights outside of Wednesday. I would look at, Tuesday nights. I would look at Thursday nights. Heck, I'd even look at Friday nights, just to try to see what would be substantial. And if not that, I look at the time frame of the night I'm currently on. I look at the fact that, okay, obviously I'm competing against a lot of live events right now. What can I do to avoid that? And if he has to, just take the damn show and then air it later on at night, let's say at 9, 10 o'clock at night, 9 p.m. Eastern and Pacific and 10 Central, if you will, air it at that time and go from there. And that might help too. But again, that's up to him. That's up to him to figure out, But going into the fall of this year and to the beginning of next year, to me, that's the obvious direction he needs to look at. He needs to look at potentially either moving on to another night, not just Dynamite, but Collision and Rampage as well. Move on to another night, or just air the show later on in the evening to avoid any competition against the likes of the NBA, the WNBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball, you name it. And once he probably figures that out, that might be a plus for AEW in the end. But to me, that's what he needs to focus on to try to fix this. And look, he's got people that are working with him that are making him realize that, hey, some of these venues you want to book and everything, that's fine. That's absolutely fine if you want to do that. But maybe you should rethink these venues. Maybe you should rethink, where you want to, have certain events. I mean, he was going to have Forbidden Door, at Archer. He was going to have Forbidden Door this year at Arthur Ashe Stadium, in Queens, New York. But somebody got to him. I'm thinking that lady he hired as the VP for his content got to him, along probably with Jeff Jarrett, and said, look, right now, attendance-wise, that's not good. That's not a good idea. And seats are more visible, on screen, in that stadium than they are in an arena, which is why they decided to move it to the UBS Arena in Long Island. Because one, even if they don't sell it out, they can hide and conceal the seats that didn't sell out more so than they could at Arthur Ashe. And that to me, is a step in the right direction, avoiding a potential public disaster. I mean, you already have pictures out there, including from last night's Dynamite, of the hard cam side of seats being empty. Now, some might say, well, it's the hard cam side. Not everybody's going to sell that out, and that's usually blocked off. Yes, that's true, but it's usually the middle part of that area. The other parts of it, are open for, for the fans to sit in, to buy tickets to sit in. So to have the seats under the hard cam section that would be available for fans empty, especially front row, not good. Not a good look. So if I'm Tony Khan and I'm AEW, I have to find a way to fix this. And again, I think basically this lady, along with people like Jeff Jarrett and others, convincing Tony Khan to say, look, doing Arthur Ashe Stadium for Forbidden Door may not be a good idea, especially the way things are right now. And moving it to the UBS Arena in Long Island, I think that's a smart move. I think that is definitely a smart move. Now, they have to look at Grand Slam. I mean, they have it happening in a 14,000-seat outdoor tennis court stadium, Louis Armstrong Stadium, and the question is going to be, will that sell out, or are they going to have to move that now too as well? I mean, I understand the whole theme of Grand Slam, in relation to tennis. I get that. But the way ticket sales are right now, they got to question that. They got to start questioning whether or not that's going to be a good move, on their end to basically go and do that. Or are they going to have to do what they did with Forbidden Door and this time, instead of, Forbidden Door being moved, move Grand Slam? See, that's going to be something they got to think about. Because if they don't sell out Grand Slam, that's not going to look good on national television when they air it. And that will be a big black eye for AEW. And, it might, and they might still get their deal that they're hoping for, but may not be the way, but that might, be more of a, I guess you could say, reasoning for WBD not to give them the deal they're expecting, but give them a deal that is more satisfactory, for WBD. Like, maybe more of a, hey, you wanted this bigger deal. Well, guess what? We're going to give you this right now, and we'll make this bigger deal in the next few years, the goal you got to reach. But you got to basically improve your programming and your viewership and attendance to get it. So I think that might be what happens. They might, give them that deal, and everything, but that deal may not be what Tony Khan's expecting, entirely. And the one he's going to want, in the long run is something he's got to work for even harder over the next few years. And the only way he's going to do that is by fixing the mistakes, he has going on currently. And to me, if they don't sell out Louis Armstrong Stadium for Grand Slam in September, and it goes on national television, and we see some empty seats in a stadium that might be even harder to hide empty seats than, let's say, Arthur Ashe, again, that's going to be a black eye for AEW. It's going to be a visually, nationally seen black eye for them. And again, that could contribute to a deal that they get, just not the deal they want. And the deal that Tony wants would be one he has to work towards over the next few years. And the only way he's going to be able to work towards it is by improving on everything that's wrong right now, that's holding AEW back. But, right now, Tony, he needs to rely on other people. He needs to basically step away and rely on those that know the ins and outs of how the wrestling business works more than him. That's what he needs to do. And if he does that, that might help. I'm not saying it will, but it might. But yeah, they might have, but in the end, they might have good shows here and there. They might have a hit here. They might have a hit there. They might have a good week overall of wrestling, programming here and there. But the viewership numbers and the attendance, that's the most important reflection, upon AEW in the long run. And if the reflection doesn't match the, what it represents or what others are seeing, if the reflection in the mirror doesn't match who's looking into it or what's looking into it, that's not a good sign. It's not a good look. And last night, despite having a good show, they had the lowest viewership number since the pandemic era. And that number was like, what, 600, it was like 672,000, viewers or less. That's not good. And again, people might say it's all because of all these other sporting events that are happening. The playoffs of NHL and NBA, the start of the WNBA season, Major League Baseball. Yeah, that's fine and everything. That's reasonable excuses. But after this is all said and done, what other excuses are they going to have? That's going to be the question. So I just wanted to come out here and talk about that. Give me your thoughts overall. What do you think needs to be fixed, by Tony Khan for AEW? Do you think moving to another night might help? Or do you think maybe moving to a later time slot on the night they're on, or the nights they're on, might help as well? And do you think maybe relocating certain events from where they are currently booked at could possibly help in the long run? Let me know. Comment below, live chat during the premiere. And by the way, super chats and super thanks are open. So if you guys want to donate that way, it'll be greatly appreciated. Give me your thoughts. What do you think Tony Khan has to do to fix the problem that's currently plaguing AEW right now? From attendance and viewership wise. Let me know. Let me know what you think he has to do. Do you think he has to move nights or move on to different nights? Or do you think he has to move to later time slots? And do you think maybe until they get things under control, they might have to relocate to smaller venues to make it feel more, I guess you could say, sold out and more fuller than what it could potentially look like if they don't, in the long run. If they stay with the venues they're currently booked at. Let me know. Comment down below. Like I said, live chat during the premiere where super chats and super thanks are open. And until then, I am out.